Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foul Ball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing well. I'm doing good. Little frenetic, little frantic. I just had to run home to make this stream, but here I am. It's 3 o'clock and I am live with you to talk about The Expanse. I would normally say this is my ongoing coverage of every single episode of The Expanse, but I've already done each episode. So today's a special one. Today we got a cool little panel of fun people to talk about The Expanse, people that I enjoy talking to, people that the opinions I respect, and very knowledgeable fans. So let me introduce, with wasting no time, you know him, you love him, Jake D. and Lord
Matt.
Hail to the chat and hail to Jake D and Foul Ball Productions. And good to be here.
Glad to have you both. Glad to have you both. Now I know, Jake, you are. Why don't you introduce yourself to the people, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. Yes, I'm Jake D. I've got a little channel I'm working on where I do a lot of genre sci-fi type coverage, really similar to Foul Ball, and a recent convert to the cult of The Expanse. And baby, am I so glad I got into this show.
You are welcome. You are welcome into the flock, my son.
Es Domine Estus.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I did not start watching The Expanse until a month ago.
That's okay. It's never too late. It's never too late. And Lord Thoth, yourself.
Oh, it's good to be here. I love talking about The Expanse. I love talking about good science fiction. I love talking about good pop culture. And I think the last couple of weeks, we've been lucky to see some of that.
Pretty lucky. And Lord Thoth is also a fan of the books. And
yes.
He's a very knowledgeable super fan. I'd say even more knowledgeable than myself, and I consider myself pretty knowledgeable. So I love when you're in my chat, like on the streams or whatever, because I'm like, what's the name of that ship, Thoth? And bam, you have it.
Except for that darn 15-second delay between when we're talking here and when he hears it in the chat.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I wish there was a way around that.
You guys have already moved past it, and I'm like typing up. I'm like, oh man, they were already talking about the next thing I have to try to type in.
I know, and I try to like balance that. I try to juggle it to make sure that, but it is tough, when it's behind. You have to just, I don't know, roll with it. Well, gentlemen,
StreamYard is StreamYard, I guess.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I will go around the horn on what you guys thought of the new season, but I want to be honest, Jake, love you, but I really want to hear what Thoth's got to say, and I haven't talked to him about it. So, good sir, if you would be so kind as to share your thoughts on the first 3 episodes that were dropped just this week.
So, my first impression after watching all 3, so I binged them. Like I was updating our Discord as I was going. I was like, oh, number 1 is done. Oh, number 2 is done. Oh my God. Oh, number 3, this season is going to be epic, right? And I think that a lot of things that I had problems with in season 4 and kind of were left over from season 3 have fundamentally been fixed by the first 3 episodes. We see it. All of our heroes are all split up. They're all over the solar system. They're doing their thing. They're living their lives. But in the background, we have this problem, right? Depending on the character that we're following, we see, a small life that our favorite tough guy, when he went back to Earth and what he's had to go through, right? Amos. And we see it's kind of like Small World. So we get the small little things where he grew up and going back because he has a death in the family, air quotes. So we see that, and then we go bigger, and we see, what Naomi is going through, and she's got a kid, and she has to go and deal with all of that, and that's great because we follow her journey to where she came from, and that's kind of great because we're all going back. We're following these characters that we've grown to love and going back into their history. And we see that from Alex too, and man, am I ever going to miss him from the show next year?
No,
we see his life on Mars, and then who does he hook up with? My favorite Marine, and they start to see what's going on with Bobby and Mars, and we get to see what's happening because of the gates opening up and that big issue with season 4. And then of course James is kind of stuck there, and he's back on the ship, and it's getting repaired. And when everybody kind of flees and goes their separate ways, he's kind of feeling this emptiness. And what happens to fill that? What happened to him when he goes through the gate? What's going on with Thomas Jane, and all of what went through his head, and that he's got brain damage, and then we get to see what's going on the station, and indirectly what's going on with Kamina and what happened with Ashford, right? And so all of that all works together with Christian Avasala and what she's going on Earth, and the big bad of the season, right, with Marco Inaris. So all of this is just Amazon did a brilliant job by taking these 3 episodes, and this book is the best book. And so you take these characters and you mix them up. It's like making an omelet, right? You've got them; they're all separate right now. But we know as we go further on in this season, everything that's going to come to a head here with the ending of episode 3. We see what happens off of Africa, and that asteroid hit, and the plans are coming to fruition. And so everything that's led up to this point is going to be catastrophic, because our heroes are all across the solar system. So how are we going to get them all back in order to be able to fix this? So, wow. Like, I think that the screenwriters here, the writers and the showrunner, I got to give all the kudos to our showrunner here for bringing this all together and having this great 3 episodes. So like 9.75 out of 10 for these 3 episodes.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with everything you're saying. The thing that I thought was really impressive was the way that there was still like a fair amount of action. Like, it still had a swiftness. It still moved, even though it was set in the groundwork for the entire season. And I thought it was super interesting. And we have another addition to the panel. What a treat. None other than Draco Argenteus.
Draco.
Hey, man. What's going on?
How are you guys doing?
Pretty
Not
good.
bad. It's a full house.
It's a full house indeed. Thoth just gave us his thoughts, and I was going to switch over to Jake, and I wanted to hear your impression, because Jake, you're a relatively new fan of the show. You just kind of got into it the past few months, right? Like, just started and binged it.
Yes.
So you probably have a really interesting opinion because of how it's all streamlined. Like, there's no gap in between your experience, because sometimes the time difference between when you experience a season to another one really affects how you feel about it. So I'm curious. So what did you think about the first 3 episodes of this new season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do have a little bit of an advantage in that sense of having binged it. Jander in the chat mentioned that during his lockdown, he binged the first 4 seasons in a couple of weeks. And that's kind of what I did. I picked it up 3 or 4 weeks ago, mainly because, I knew season 5 was coming out, and a lot of the folks that I talked to were going to be talking about it. And, Matt, people like you and Gary telling me how just amazing the show was. So finally sat down and got through it. And so it was cool, because I only finished season 4, I don't know, a week ago. Something like that. So I was able to pop right into season 5, fresh on the ending there on New Terra, with how everything went crazy with the proto-molecule activating all those structures that were there. And of course, we get to see in season 5 that those structures are absolutely everywhere at every planet on any side of any of those ring gates.
Good call, because they only mentioned that just like in passing. I know, you know what? That's a good pickup. You're right.
Mm-hmm. And so getting that, for me, just a direct transfer into the new shows, it probably felt a little bit more fluid than it did for the rest of y'all. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, we see, the Mando season finale was yesterday, and it's gonna be at least a year before we get anything else. Whereas, moving straight through it can be fun. I mean, I like doing that with a lot of shows that I love. even House is my favorite procedural. I rewatched that whole series probably every 9 months or so, just because I love it. So experiencing the Expanse this way was cool. I like that the season 4 was a bit of a letdown. Not that it wasn't good, because it was absolutely, but the changes and just sort of how they approached the storytelling and what was going on, it just wasn't as good as the first 3 for me. But season 5 has stepped it right back up, and the change in the presentation of the storytelling, I think, works really, really well, because there's a big change in the events of the universe that we're experiencing. So everything that we did kind of led up to that midway of season 3. So the first 2.5 seasons are almost like one continuous story to an extent.
Yeah,
and then you've got a big break and a change that kind of covers, that halfway through season 3 until you get to the end of season 4. So again, we've got a bit of, we had the bit of the interlude, and we change our approach. And I really like how they did it, following the characters individually again, kind of how we did before they first all came together. It is a good change of pace. So following Amos back to Earth, and I can't speak well enough about how much I loved that scene when he was in that Belter transport going to Luna.
That was great.
And he was looking for the excuse.
Oh my God, was he?
He walks into, the steerage cabin, and the 2 guys there are like, dude, you're in the wrong place, man. First class is upstairs. And Amos, he's just more comfortable there. So that's where he went. I'm going to assume these guys were right, and he had a first class ticket, but that's not where he wanted to be.
No, I think it's because he's an Earther.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah, that could be, which you could obviously just see by looking at the guy. And
well, they just assume it's just a different. There's a class difference out there, and they're just like, "Wait, you're Earth. We don't mingle." Because, also there's kind of a war.
Yeah, well,
there's even more than a class difference that they didn't talk about in the show. They can't have the Belters looking all tall and skinny all the time. They can't have the Inners always looking like they grew up under gravity. But go on.
They do a good job with like the tattoos and the kind of cyberpunky look. I think it creates a distinction between the cultures.
It would be pretty tough to do the effects required to show the huge physical differences. So, that's easily forgivable. You got to work with what you got.
I agree.
And we don't have any Belters right now. So, but
Beltalada.
That's right. So he rolls in there, and the guy comes in. It's the local protection racket, man. It's the old school mafia. The guy's coming in and offering them to purchase insurance, right? And that was the excuse Amos is looking for. He knows exactly what's going down. He knows exactly what's going to happen when he tells this guy to piss off. And and he looks forward to it. He pops into that bathroom and he beats the living hell out of 5 or 6 guys. Just because he needed his little release, so he picked a fight.
Well, I didn't put together that it was because that woman Lydia was dead. Like, this was like, some people drink, some people fuck, and Amos fucks people up.
Yes, absolutely, right. And then
without taking a drink.
Yeah, and then they jerk him into Avasarala's office when he gets to Luna.
Which was a great scene, by the way.
Great scene.
God, that was a great scene.
Those 2 together.
She tells him, I'm not your favorite stripper. And he's, well, why can't you be both?
Yeah.
Their interaction. It's so
that's
funny.
Another thing, too. The one-liners in this were just off the charts.
Amazing.
So good.
Because I said it like when I was watching it, and she goes, "You look like shit," and I thought like, "Well, you look great," and then he says, "You look amazing." And I was like, "Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing." She does look amazing.
Yo,
she does. I'm not sure how old the actor.
In her 60s, at least.
Gotta be
really good.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Knockout.
If I age that well, I'll be a very happy man.
I swear. I feel good. She look really good.
She's 68 years old. She was born in 52.
Wow.
Doesn't she look amazing?
Older than my dad. She's older than my dad. Wow.
Yeah, she's Iranian.
Yeah. Yes, she sure is. Real quick, Jake, just any like just anything major, because I do want to hear what Draco's like. I want Draco's little monologue as well.
So, I mean, I guess the big reaction is the change of pace and the change in the way that they're presenting the story and what's happening. It works really well for me, given the major events that we're going through with this season and building these pieces. And you can tell they're going to be bringing it back together. Just the approach, and I don't know the book, so I'm not 100% sure if this is how it rolled in the book. Whether it was or not, I like how they're putting it together to bring everything into the larger story that we're going to see culminating later.
I think it's pretty close. There's a lot of stuff here that's a little different, but I think what they did is they modernized it. They made it more today's kind of way, like the whole Cold War with what's going on in the systems with the Mars, the Belters, and Earth, and with the opening of the gates and what happened. And I think a lot of that has changed over time, right? Because when they originally started writing these books, it was like 20 years ago or some, I can't remember exactly the date, but it's quite a while ago. Like, a lot of things have happened in the last, let's say, 20 years. So they kind of take kind of a modern look at what's going on in the world and throw it into the future. I think what's happened is they've modernized that a bit. And a lot of the storylines I find from the books are better. I enjoy Bobby's story better. Because her story is really basic in the books. We don't really see a lot of the background and the storytelling that we've gotten from her character. I think a lot of the stuff in Amos is pretty close to the same. There's a lot of Holden stuff that's different, but I think that the story in the books is you can tell a lot more and be a lot more political, I guess, because it is a written story versus you need action in a TV show to get things moving, and that's kind of the differences in what's going on in the books and what's going on here. I've actually enjoyed the show more than I have the books, which is quite
fair enough.
Something.
All right, now, Matt, are you back?
I just kept talking. So
yeah, it was a really good shot of his mug kind of stalled there in still frame for us when he timed out.
Can you hear us?
Nope.
He might be here. But we can keep talking.
Just to feed into your book discussion, this actually isn't as old. It's 2011 was its first publication date of
so
Leviathan.
Like 9 years. Okay, yeah. Why was I thinking it was older than that?
Maybe giving it cred that it didn't have. I don't know, but it still has. I mean, we've had changes recently, considering the nature of where the authors might want to go with some of the subject matter, that they could definitely twist the screenplay into a slightly different direction based on what they've got or what they want to go with it. So you aren't wrong that they could rewrite it.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing. They're looking at the world in 2011 or 2010, and I'm sure they probably had several years working up to publishing their first book too. So there's a lot of changes that they made, which are good changes, I think.
Very good.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened to my computer there, but everything, I couldn't even hear you guys, and I watched myself just freeze. But
you look good now.
Yeah, I'm moving. I'm animated. I'm back to what's the topic of conversation?
We were about to ask Draco his opinion of the first 3 episodes, high level.
Perfect. Well, perfect.
I loved it. I was definitely appreciative of the storyline taking off where it did now. The only thing I didn't like is something that was necessary for the story, that we have split up the family. To try to bring a good color back to that word in genre, the family of the Rocinante, not another family that we might talk about. The Rocinante has everybody split and gone to their own directions to deal with their own issues, but this does, as you mentioned, it gives us the ability to look at the wider world. One of the things we had in the last series, one of the weakest seasons of the series, was to take the main cast and put them out there in one of the miscellaneous areas of the universe where now the Belters and Earth are expanding out there, and tensions are beginning to rise, and they're dealing with that on their own sort of independent manner of dealing with things. But I think a lot of people, let's not be protracted about this. I feel that it was one of the weakest parts of the storytelling. It really didn't give me a lot to go on. It really didn't feel that good. It was bad enough that
Draco, I don't know. I just don't know what was one of the weakest parts of the storytelling.
Sometimes it didn't feel like I was engaged enough in the story, like I was interested enough in what happened. I was more interested in finding out more about what they were going to tell about the next piece of information about the protomolecule. Or
are you talking about season 4?
Season 4, yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm giving context because I fell back on interest of it, and it wasn't just because the whole thing was released right around the time that the Rusev Soywoker took all the air out of the room. But the thing is that I wasn't as interested as I was in the first 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But now, in just 3 episodes, I'm riveted. I'm interested. And like I said, the only thing I was hurt by was the fact that we're not getting the opportunity for Amos to ping off. Now there it is. I'm going to lose everybody else's name.
Bobby?
The crew of the Rossi.
The crew of the Rossi, for them to ping off of each other and the way that they behave off of each other, because that was one of the best things about 4 that was still weak. Season 4 that was still weak.
True, I agree.
Wasn't as interested in the interaction of the crew as much as I was interested how each of their takes of how they were interacting with each other. Now this one, you don't get that, but now we're getting color on Amos. We're getting color on the engineer, the Belter.
Naomi.
I need to have all the names in front of me. I'm going to show just how boomer I'm going to
Holden.
Stream brain is a real thing, Draco.
It is a real thing.
And Holden is one of the least interesting, but he's the one sitting back there just sort of like hanging on the Rossi, like what am I doing out here but watching things happen around me? Well, I'm still interested in the story that getting the first thing, Amos, the interaction as he's going on the Belter ship, and you see just how he rolls when he's on his own, and then he's pulled in by Avasarala, and you get that excellent little interchange between them, and then you actually get to see him in his own element when he's back on Earth. And he is actually, it was one of my concerns. I didn't know how they were going to play that and how it was going to play out. And I'm wondering what's going to happen now, because the very first thing happens. We're complete spoilers, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The very first rock hits Earth while he's there.
Yes.
And what's going to happen to Amos now? Yes.
Yeah.
Amos isn't done with what he's doing on Earth. He called up his contact and said, I got to do one more thing before I leave. And one of the very next things you have is that guy on the shore who sees is wiped out by the first rock.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Amos is on the other side of the planet. In the books,
on the other side, he's far away, right?
Yeah.
So but how is this going to affect Earth and what he's doing?
And the books, he actually is on Earth at the time, and this all happens. I'm expecting that what we're going to see in episode 4 is probably kind of a flashback, not so much a flashback, but what's going to happen while this is going on when he's on Earth, and trying to get Avasarala to get him that next contact. Remember, before we leave him, he says, hey, I need your help in meeting with another person. And so I think that's all tying back to exactly what happens in the book when
that's hooking us,
it hits the fan. Yeah, it's going to hit the fan.
Getting us to the next one. You're going to stay because you want to know what happens in that one. And now you've got Naomi, who's on her. She's met her son, and that kind of played out how you would expect, right?
Yes.
That her son is completely inured in Marco's the snowball of his grand aspirations, this plan that he's got, and he's brought along his son, and his son is fully there. And the mother who was away, who has at least fully admitted from her own perspective that she left him, she set him apart, but she still cares about him. Now, this is an interest. How is this going to play out? How is she going to be able to get into doing that? Is she going to be able to have any reference from this? But she's also in amongst members of people that she knew. You got different dynamics going on there. This is like an older family that we didn't know about. This is where Naomi came from, because she's got the old belter that still likes her and still wants to treat her well. Got the one who thinks she's a traitor and a turncoat. Haven't even seen any interaction between her and Marco yet, but how her son feels.
Yeah.
And then we got Bobby. Oh, sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just as far as Naomi and her kid, I thought it was interesting how there's a parallel narrative with her and Philip and Alex and his kid. Oh man,
I'm saying it's a parallel.
I'm lagging.
Are you lagging?
Yep. I'm gonna restart everything. You guys can keep going. I'm gonna step out and just vamp for me.
Okay.
We'll be back
We'll catch you back in a couple minutes, buddy.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Take care of business.
No problem. We'll take care of things. Okay, now it's our channel.
All right, now the boss is gone. We can have some fun.
That's right. While the cat's away. I think you're right, Draco. I think that you have an interesting point there. I think that it's funny how normally it's in ancient Dungeons and Dragons lore or horror movie lore, it's you never split the party because that's when it hits the fan. And you're right. It's funny how in the last season, it felt like it was a drag. We saw them all split up, mostly. Obviously, there was some characters were with other characters, blah, blah, blah. But I think in this one here, the storylines are just so telling on how much they drag you in. It's in a good way. Like you're wondering, okay, so what's going on Mars? We get to see that. Or what's going on Earth? Because we really haven't seen much of Earth, except for Bobby's perspective. And in the books, there's a lot of stuff that we find out in like book 4 and 5 and 6 about what's going on Earth. And there's a whole bunch of things and what's going on in the belt. And really the problem is that unless these characters split off and start seeing what's going on, we're kind of stuck with what season 4 did, was drag us into the gates and what's going on that one planet. And I felt that really limited the universe. Yeah, we saw other places in snapshots, right? But in this case, we got to see almost, half an episode for each character and where they went. So yeah, you're right. I agree that this has really dragged me in big time.
Yeah, the effect that what they've done is really good because by splitting the party, they're letting us see the wider universe. When you're this mature into a TV show, you don't want to bog yourself down introducing a lot of new characters. And the same is true of novels to an extent, although you've got a little more license there. So we need to know what's going on Earth, right? Because there's these asteroids coming to impact it. So we need to understand what's going on there. We need to know what's going on Mars, because one of the most interesting storylines to me of both last season and this season is the collapse of Mars, because Mars is absolutely falling apart. And unless we get to experience that, and that was like Bobby's whole purpose of season 4. The reason she was there was to keep us up to date on Mars collapsing. That's it, because we can only see the story through her point of view. And now we get to continue to see more of that with her and Alex, right? And so that's the viewer's lens into the collapse of Mars, which is going to be really important, because without that, we don't even get the events of season 5, because that's where the stealth tech on these asteroids came from, was all about, now we know why it was so damn important to watch Mars collapsing in season 4, because without that, we don't have Inaros and his attack that is going to cause, clearly it's going to cause all kinds of mayhem. And then
this is awesome because I'm sorry, I'm interrupted. Go ahead. This is awesome because we get to see the collapse of a superpower and what happens with the proliferation of nuclear weapons, or it's very much an analogy of what happened in 2000 and what we saw in the turn of the century with what happened to our modern world. What happens when a superpower economically collapses? So
Yes.
anyway, keep going. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that storyline because it's just intriguing to me, right? With Mars, and then of course we've got our boys in the belt, mainly anchored by Holden at Tycho Station, but giving us the view into the OPA government situation to an extent, right? We got the subplot with Monica and discovering that there's still protomolecule research going on, and what's happening with Johnson. And we haven't seen Anderson Dawes for ages, although they still talk about him. I'm curious what the hell that son of a bitch is up to, because we haven't seen him in a long time. And I don't know if he's going to appear in the season or not. I certainly hope so, because I like the character. But there's, we get the government of the OPA there. And then Naomi's trip to try to get Philip, it gives us the glimpse into the rebellious wings of the OPA, the Inaros faction, and the people that are, not okay with this peace arrangement, the people that are not okay being a part of that. So it's so we get all those viewpoints, which is just super important to the story that's being told in this season.
Yeah, I think we might get to see Holden. I think that Thomas Jane, he directed episode 3, obviously, and did an outstanding job, by the way. I'm impressed.
Really good.
I like him. He's kind of always been my Punisher, but I think that we may get a little sneak peek, or he may do a little cameo. I'm kind of hoping, because I love the character and I love the actor, so I'm hoping.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that approach to the storytelling is good, and it gives us that wide world, and that's definitely what was lacking in season 4 in a lot of ways, because we had such a narrow focus at the Ring and on New Terra, and that was probably 80% of season 4. We just had a little bit of view into Earth through Avasarala.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really what it did. Is the show had to tell that story, but it really limited itself in its storytelling capabilities, because I think there's a lot of stuff they had to skip over to deal with the gates and deal with the other planets, and because they were setting up what's coming up in, I thought, like 7, 8, and 9, book 7, 8, 9, or / season 7, 8, 9. So I think that they're going back to what made them popular, and I'm shocked that this show isn't more popular, honestly.
Why is it not more popular? I mean, in my case, I just never, I don't believe I've ever turned on the Sci-Fi Network probably for the last 10 years.
Yeah, and you and everybody else.
I mean, I was under the assumption there was nothing worth watching that was original.
There is no Sci-Fi Network. There's this little thing called Sci-fi that NBC created, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got shark movie episodes on it. Sharknado.
That's right. My opinion of Sci-fi is Sharknado, which I suppose if I was, wasted and on various substances might be entertaining, or if I just really needed something dumb to check out to, okay, let's do a little Sharknado. And there's been like 7 of those movies now. I mean, Jesus. So my opinion is just Sci-fi wasn't worth tuning into. So I never turned on The Expanse because it was on Sci-fi. And holy shit, I missed the best show on television.
I spent the greater part of 98 through 2000, and I don't know when I actually turned off television, watching Sci-Fi and the History Channel, and then they both went to shit.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying you don't like the season 16 of Ancient Aliens, Draco?
Jeez.
Entertaining.
It is entertaining.
At least up here, our Sci-Fi Channel shows sci-fi shows and movies. It doesn't really create its own. There's been a couple of kind of failed experiments from Canadian sci-fi television. They're great, but they end up costing a lot of money, right? So I think that's probably why Sci-fi decided to take the tack that they did, and it's terrible because that really it's allowed genre places to open up new TV shows. Like HBO has got their own take. You've got Amazon now. You've got look, I get that, but genre television, pop culture is huge. Like we've seen that when you can have 1.6 billion-dollar movies from superhero comics and sci-fi movies. So that's why I'm shocked that this show really isn't bigger than it is. I just think that the marketing campaign for this show has been atrocious. You got to get it out there. You got to advertise it. You got to spend $1 million and tell everybody that you have the best show on television.
Yeah.
Hey guys, let me cut in. I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You guys were very generous.
Who gave you the link and let you in here?
You look better. It looks like you're connected now, man. So this is good.
I don't know. I had to restart the router, restart the whole computer. But Thoth, to your point, it hit me last night when I was doing episode 3. I was like, we are about to turn this country into the United States of Amazon. There's about to be no other businesses. He's about to own the entire economy. We're all just going to work for Amazon credits. And this show is on Amazon and people don't know about it.
Right?
How is it possible?
How is that possible?
You could just put it on every package and then 350 million Americans would know about it. Like, it's so weird to me.
Or throw in a t-shirt on every package that went out for Christmas.
Yeah, or just like put in a banner on everyone's homepage on Amazon. Everybody has Amazon. They did, what, 100. His net worth went up $100 billion this year. And like, I mean, how many trillions of dollars of business is that?
Going up.
It's still going up. So it's like what? You don't have the platform to tell people? I just don't understand how this isn't the biggest show in the world.
I know.
And honestly, up until recently, we got these new episodes, I was okay with that.
Because I want to see more, right? I think that popularity and ratings is a big driver of how shows make it to a season 6. I'm quite impressed that this show made it to a season 6. Obviously, Amazon knew what they were getting when they bought the show. Yeah. I think that and I think that the showrunner and the people behind it too sold it really well in the back alleys and the back rooms and the boardrooms. I think they went in and said, this show is the best show on television no one is watching. So let's put it on a platform that millions of people are watching and let's see what happens. And I think that's why they're giving it a 5 and a 6, because I think at the end of season 6, if this show blows up, there may be a delay, but we may get a 7, 8, 9. We'll see.
I don't think we're going to get a 7, 8, 9 because the statement from the writers, from the James S.A. Corey moniker, is that they're done. Like this is a choice that they're making and they're happy with this choice. And this is not like, that's why it's not canceled. They almost went on like a PR campaign to like combat my video. No, I'm just kidding. But it was like this whole thing where they wanted to make it clear it wasn't canceled. This was a choice. And I think the guy, a user who commented on one of my videos pointed out like a tweet thread, and the guy said, we have no plans on doing a spinoff, but we don't own it, so they can do whatever they want.
See, I took that as them saying that it's not canceled, it's delayed, and we'll see what happens in the coming years, right? If someone is going to offer you a bucket load of money, absolutely you're going to come back. And if this show does really well, we'll have to see. And if there is a delay, we'll say a couple of years. That's really not a bad thing, because that gets us past a lot of what's going on in genre television today. And we get past the politics of today and into the future where hopefully everything is better. And if that's the case, then that also explains why the actors could be aged into the next chapter. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm trying to be optimistic.
I mean, I'm thinking that if this show gets the right amount of traction, and I think they've made a really good choice by releasing weekly to let assholes like us talk on the internet,
smart.
And help build buzz.
It's free marketing.
Absolutely. And if we get good traction through season 5, and they do a decent marketing campaign, we'll get good traction in a high quality season 6. I mean, I tend to agree with the author's description of it as being more of a pause. And maybe we take a 3-4 year hiatus, kind of like what Thoth is talking about, and rock out those last 3 seasons to match the last 3 books. And it's all about how much traction and popularity the show gains. If it gets, it'll be back.
It allows them to put out that 9th book too, and see how that goes.
Didn't that just come out? Am I wrong?
No, it doesn't come out until next October.
Oh,
they released the cover in September, but the 9th book hasn't come out yet until I think it's like October 21st, something like that.
So would you guys be interested in spin-off content? And I don't mean just blanket. I mean like particular stories. Like what do you think would be interesting in this world to spin off?
I don't know. I mean, it's a hard question, right? I mean, you could, and again, I haven't read the books, right? So I may not be, what sounds like an interesting spin-off to me may not make any sense with the novel content. But I think you could have some pretty cool, and you could maybe do them as limited series, right? Like one and dones, 6 to 10 episodes.
Like a mini series thing.
Yeah. Like a mini series, limited series, as opposed to a spin-off show. But you could follow a group of, maybe belters and dusters that are starting up a colony through one of the ring gates. And
see that I would want to see. I would love to see something that was going on in one of those exoplanets.
Yeah. And, obviously you got to go with a different role than you did in season 4 with the issues that were on that particular planet in New Terra. But if you followed like one colony and some of the crazy shit that they had to go through to survive, like that could be a pretty cool limited series.
Yeah, there's some book stuff you could spin off there. I think you're right. I think they could take a different angle. I honestly think that they're going to, like, book 9 is going to get done, and then we could probably be in a better position to decide what would be a good spinoff. Staying within the system is kind of limiting. So yeah, the gates are prime ideas for new content.
Man, I just missed a prime opportunity to screen cap pixelated Matt.
Did we lose him again?
He's just frozen here, not to mention it recently played, like, it desequenced and played a previous version of them, and then suddenly he moved from one side of the screen to the other.
You need to call your ISP, I think, Matt.
You are suffering.
Hey, you're back.
Again. Jump cut.
I think he's writing. He's writing up the complaint to the ISP right now. He's like, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Something's going on in Los Angeles today. There were stoplights out. I guess like the electricity's out, and now I don't know. My internet is on the fritz. So,
wow.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here, and it's not reliant on me.
Yes,
we're here to
I
help
just
you out.
Screen capped pixelated Matt. I got it.
That'll be my new avatar.
I'm sorry, Draco. I think I interrupted you earlier. What were you going to say?
I don't know. I lost several trains of thought by now because I was going on at length, and I mean, I've only got one thing left in my head. One thing I was trying to get across was, at some point you were talking about the comparison to horror genre and things. When everybody's broken up, that's when stuff gets bad, and it's not too far from the truth. I was going to say the events and Nemesis games that we are going to see here play out kind of like an Empire Strikes Back of the novels. And this is when everybody is split up, and you're going to get eyes on Mars, you're going to get eyes on Earth, you're going to get eyes on the belt, and they're all going to see it from their own point of views, including eyes inside Marco Inara's. That's why Naomi is there.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get 4 different perspectives on Earth being leveled by big ass rocks.
It's interesting, and you were saying that was one of your least favorite parts, is how that the team is split. I think normally I would.
The idea of it, I wasn't saying I was discomforted by it because we won't get that, but the point that I was leading into was that after seeing it, I'm going like, well, this is exactly why we have that. We have 4 different viewpoints. So that's what I was going to finish with. Now we have the 4 different viewpoints on each of those. I didn't talk about the Mars viewpoint with Bobby and Kamal, Alex. I didn't get the point of view from them because that's the continued fall, as Jake D, while you were going through one of your cycles, was mentioning that.
Yeah, we're not sure how much you heard, Matt.
Yeah, no, not everything. When I was restarting, I had the stream up on my phone, just trying to listen. But no, well, something that
you can watch it on the replay.
Well, I was just going to draw it up in 2 points. Number 1, we have the 4 different viewpoints from all of our crew, which is perfect. And number 2, this is the dark. There's going to be a dark turn. There are going to be events that we are going to be. I am hoping. I'm hoping are going to be just that much more. We got to watch. We got to see. We want to know what happens next. Even if you've read the books, we want to see how it plays out.
It's always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah, I felt the drama was very compelling this year. I thought the way that they led to the cliffhangers was great, was really interesting, and it didn't feel cheap. It didn't feel like, well, this was the big event. Stay tuned for the future. It was just like, oh my God, I have to see what happens next. I'm dying to know. But to Draco's point about them being separated, generally, I would agree. Generally, I would find it to be the least interesting thing. It's I was talking about how it's when the minor character on the TV show gets her own episode and she comes in the room like she's a superstar all of a sudden. You're just like, oh no, everyone's just, and they're just kind of like, all right, I'll be polite through this episode. But they know their universe so well that the characters still feel like the characters interacting with whatever comes their way. It still feels like Alex on Mars. It still feels like Amos on Earth. It's just everybody is it just feels like the world is just sort of spread out. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel any less the crew. It feels like we're just moved it around.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And we got to see Kamina's bum, so that was good.
I wasn't arguing with that. Matt had to take himself a little 2-minute pause there.
I wasn't expecting that. That was a big moment.
Me too. I was actually surprised at the nudity. I was like, wow.
We've seen I think we've seen Naomi's butt before. We've seen her booty.
Yeah.
Back in season 3 or something like that, which is, hey, excellent. Very also wonderful. I love the women on this show. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Absolutely.
This was all pre what's that? Mrs. Marvel? Not Mrs. Marvel. What's the one we can't? Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
This was all pre-Captain Marvel, so all the women on that were so beautiful and unique and different, and I love them all. And that's how I feel about the women on The Expanse. They're all so pretty and different and unique and interesting. I kind of love them collectively. Alex,
but they're not dolls, right? They're not dolls. They're not made up supermodels. They appear to be like normal people, or they're beautiful because they're regular people, and I think that's part of it too. That's why I keep heaping kudos onto the casting for this show. Is just outstanding, the guys and the girls. I mean, Holden with the shirt off is obviously the girls are going to love that, right? And then we get to see.
Say you love it too, Thoth. It's okay.
I used to look like that. That was a long time ago.
Well done. It's like you said, it's the great casting. The best cases of they're going to use the word diversity, but if you care about it, you've done an excellent job of picking out characterizations, and just selecting people that are diverse and they're quality individuals, they're quality actors that are filling these roles. I mean, it suffers, doesn't it, to say that they don't want you to think of the more attractive individual or the more physically capable individual. But the thing is that truly is an interesting person that you want to. You've got to cast those people, because those are the people that we watch, because it's not just their physicality, but their physicality is a door into, I want to listen to them. And then you give them the excellent lines and their ability to portray the role, not just in saying these well-written words, but the physicality of their performances.
Yeah. It's got to be like
cannot minimize those things. You cannot treat those like current year does. Go ahead.
No,
People with
yeah.
talent is a big deal.
It needs to be a package, like, because there's definitely a lot of really pretty people who are terrible to look at on camera. You're just like, oh God, would this idiot shut up? Like, you just can't. I mean, there's characters I watch. I'm like, oh, kill this person. I hate them. Like they might
Exactly.
be objectively really pretty, but it's just, that doesn't. So what? Like, it does have to be a lot of things, and they seem to find I don't know, these sort of like magical unicorns in all the people that they bring into the show. It's so impressive. I was saying, even like from a superficial, what's that?
And lots of real people too.
Very real. I was blown away by how well cast Philip was. Her son. It looks just like her. They really look like they could be related.
All right. Hey, Matt, gentlemen, I got to check out. I've got some barbecue on the grill and some guests coming over. But
Okay.
by God, I do appreciate the invite. And I mean, any chance that I get to talk about the Expanse, it's like, yes, please.
Right on.
So.
Well, thanks for
Well,
stopping
you went
in,
through
Jake.
the super binge, like the super binge. How many weeks or how many days should I say did it take you to get through them all?
Oh gosh, it took me a couple of weeks to do seasons 1 and 2, and then I did seasons 3 and 4 in about 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like now whenever you go to sleep, that's all you're dreaming about is the Expanse.
Right?
I know.
You're like, oh, protocol, oh.
Yeah. It's in my eyes. It's in my eyes.
There's no blue goop over here, man. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Plus, I like your reindeer in the background there too. That's pretty good.
Yeah. My girlfriend, she put that up there, and I loved it. I'm festive. I got like all kind of Christmas lights out here. The wreath, the Rudolph. I mean, it's great. So, all right, everybody, have a good evening, and we'll catch you later.
Thank you,
Enjoy
Jake.
the barbecue. Later.
See you, brother. Guys, if you don't know Jake D, go head over to his channel. Give him a little subski. He's a good dude. He's a good part of the fandom menace. He's interesting, creative, and he's the only person I know who's talking about the stand right now. So check out his video on the stand, because I think he might be the first to the party on that one.
Yeah, that's funny. We were just chatting about that a bit there earlier. That there's nobody doing anything about the stand, and I was pretty shocked.
It's the first time even hearing about it. I don't even know.
Yeah. Well, there's his link to his channel in the chat there.
Oh, look at you.
I can't put it in the thing there, but
got it. So, whoops. Oof. Well, I appreciate you guys vamping for me earlier. That was pretty. That was hilarious. On my own channel.
oh no, that's no problem. We had a good time.
Yeah, that was very cool, man. Because me and Draco were talking about this the other day, Thoth, and we were really, I don't know, because when we were mentioning it, we were talking about it, and like I don't want it to be about this all the time, but there was that little bugaboo in the back of my brain before I started watching, and I was like, okay, like this is my favorite show. This is The Expanse. Like I want it to be great, but you have that you're a little off your back foot, before it actually lands. Did you feel yourself like being anxious about it? Did you trust the creators, or were you like, I don't know, what's going to happen with this new season?
Do you want to go first, Draco?
Oh, no, I was asking you directly because I talked to Draco about it already.
Yeah, I thought he was asking you. I wasn't going to ring in.
Because I tend to talk too much, so I just.
That's okay.
You are free reign. Go.
Yeah, a little bit. I think there's a little bit of trepidation that comes with going into this story, and I think we're a little bit gun shy with what's been going on in pop culture and our world, and yeah, I was a little bit worried because really there hasn't been much that I've seen leading up to this. There's been a few stories here and there, a few marketing campaigns, but it's been relatively quiet. Now, I don't know if that's because the show isn't as popular as you might think, but I was a little bit worried on how they were going to take the show in what direction they were going. But after the first 3 episodes, I'm not worried anymore. But
No.
It's been a good story up to season 3, and season 4, like I said, was a letdown. It's still like an 8 out of 10. It's not like it was a terrible season, but it was just a step back, I thought. So I think this season has been great.
Well,
so
what's
far.
interesting? about this season that I was like, wow, they really got that in there. Was someone pointed out in one of my like a user watching was that Kamina's ship is a polyamorous like family thing.
Yep.
Like, and I didn't actually notice because I remember like the girl kissed that guy, and then we went to bed with Kamina, and I was like, oh, they are like polyamorous. And like, I swear to God, it doesn't feel weird to me. It doesn't feel like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know what it is about like the way we communicate or like human beings or like television, this type of stuff, like art. But I swear it's like you can feel it when the creator wants you to be like, hey, and we threw this in there. What do you think about that? Like that slipped like right by me. And now that I know, I'm intrigued as opposed to being like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what it is. It's like intention. It's like you can sense intention or something.
Well, it's good story writing.
Led to water. The difference of being led to water than just being thirsty and going to find the water yourself. They hang those lanterns on it deliberately. And the worst case scenario is saying, oh, by the way, I'm gay. Or
yeah, well, nowadays, instead of leading you to water.
References it. Yes, exactly. They point
right
at it and go, look at it because you must look at it. If you do not look at it, I have not done my job.
I would say instead of leading you, they straight up waterboard you. That's what I think. That's what I think.
That's more important. Yeah, that's more appropriate.
Yeah.
Don't you see the color? Don't you see the LGBT representation? Oh, I see it. I see it.
It's great. Say it's great.
I just think that's about storytelling. It's about doing it the right way. You can put in stuff in your story without hammering people over the head with it.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a firm believer that in the future, a lot of the stuff that we deal with now that are left over from maybe our conservative roots, whether they were British conservative roots, French conservative roots, or Asian conservative roots, like wherever we're coming from in the world, a lot of society back before last century has been really, really conservative and set in a certain way. So I think that as you grow more open to the real world and how things move, absolutely it's okay to commit to one person for your entire life. That's one way to look at it. It's also okay to commit to, have a male husband when you're a man. Absolutely. If you're a girl and you want to have a female wife, then that's fine. Or if you want to have, where you're more open, where it's a swinger atmosphere or whatever, that's fine. Like, I think it depends on your own beliefs and how you feel. And everybody should be entitled to that, based on, of course, the laws of the land and staying within the law, right? We're talking some serious stuff that we won't get into here, but I think that as long as it's society accepts it, and as the individual accepts it and becomes more open, the society becomes more open. And if we're telling a story in the future, if it's 200, 300, 500, 1,000 years in the future, it should be just normal. It's normalized behavior. It's interpersonal relations between each person. It doesn't matter what they are based on sex, religion, culture, whatever. It should be more open and honest with each other. And yeah, I believe this and you believe that. So you should accept that. And everybody should be accepting of each other. So when you tell a story that doesn't beat your head over with it and say, hey, I'm Jack and I'm gay. Like, what?
Right.
Like that's not what you would do in normal conversation. However, if you show a scene where somebody is in bed sleeping and they wake up because they have a nightmare and they're with a guy or they're with a girl or whatever, that doesn't matter. It's the story goes from there. If you go to get a drink because you're going through grief and remorse and guilt, and you're mourning someone who meant a lot to you, and you go and you sit there by a drink. Sure, let's show her getting out of bed with another woman. Who cares? That's not the story here. The story is she is crushed by the loss of a dear friend and somebody she respected and looked up to, and that's what we're dealing with here. That's the storyline. Yeah. Who cares if she's bisexual? I don't care about that.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me at all. It's not even like it was so elegantly done, and that's what I was gonna get at. It's like it was so elegantly done. It's like, of course they handled that well. They handle everything well. They don't spoon feed you anything. So why would they decide to start spoon feeding when it comes to representation? Like that's like they are the most perfect vessel for all these types of things that are maybe kind of touchy or can feel preachy or are preachy at times because it's elegant, it's delicate, it's laid in there with they're not asking for the pat on the back. They don't want any kind of, credit or props. They just weave it in just like everything else. I mean, you could miss it even. Like it's what's so good about this show is like when you're watching it, when you're first getting into it, like you need to pay attention. Like if you're not really focusing, you could miss like pretty big chunks and they're not going to like come back and be like, "Hey audience, here's what you need to know. This is the story. Do you get it?" Like you have to really pay attention. So it makes perfect sense that they would also be able to handle these types of things. And it's like, not only is it not preachy, it's compelling. I'm like, polyamorous family, interesting. What's this all about? Like, like this little group of swingers in space. Like, okay, cool. What do we got going on here? And real quick, hello, hail, Man of War 665, neighbor of the beast.
Neighbor of the beast.
I say that every time to myself. Good to see you, brother.
I was just going to add in there that one thing that they seem to miss is that when they do that for you, Matt, they also give you the opportunity to increase watchability, because if you noticed it in passing and you're going, wait, I got to see if I really saw that, or
right,
you might go back over it immediately, or you might watch it again, and every time you watch again you realize, wait a second, did I miss a detail here? And you might have, because they're lacing this story together with extra detail because they care about it, and that gives you more, and that means you can watch it again and you can get up your hours on it. You can actually sell this property and this thing can be successful, and we can have an excellent story told by excellent storytellers, excellent actors, and it can go on.
I think that comes out of respect for your audience, because like a lot of people, like in marketing, a lot of people in entertainment, they just think people are stupid. It's like, people are not stupid. They're just impulsive. It's like, there are stupid people, but it's not as a whole. It's like, there's an impulse thing that goes, oh, Eric K, what up? Now we can start. Now the show is really kicking off. Now that Eric K is here.
Following me around again, I see.
Eric is here.
Hey. But it's more that, but if you treat your audience with respect, like as if it's you, or if it's like how you'd want to be treated, or what you find interesting, and like you respect them by, just treating it like you're talking to adults, like people who are intelligent, like, then you create a better product, and then you create more goodwill, and people are more interested. And it's like, I don't feel like condescended to with this show ever. I feel like, oh, I'm engaged with you, and they don't. I don't know. It's like I feel like it's a private thing with me and this show. Like, like I'm so ingrained in it. It's not ingrained. What's the word? Like, so just interested. Like it's like they're communicating with just me, because it's so enveloping.
Yeah, the show is good. It's great. I think that we have two different shows here too. Let's do a quick comparison. We have an intellectual show that makes you think. It's passionate. It's hard science fiction. It makes you wonder. It makes you consider that the science here is very, very accurate as it could be. It's very much a thinking man science fiction, and that's or a thinking woman science fiction. It's a great,
very
show.
Progressive of you, Thoth. Thank you so much. Here at Foulball
thinking person,
we celebrate gender equality.
A thinking person's science fiction, but yet we just saw the season finale of The Mandalorian, whereby that's a fun show. Well, some people did, where it's a fun show, but it's not a thinking show. It's a let's beat up on the stormtroopers, let's dodge blaster fire, and
spoilers,
and let's have fun. And that's what that is. It's fun. It's the child kind of tug at your heartstrings, kind of good dad, bad babysitter kind of show. And this one here is science fiction, but it's a different kind of show. This is head and shoulders above The Mandalorian, in my opinion.
Oh God. Oh my God. Yeah. If I never saw another episode of The Mandalorian, I wouldn't give a shit. I could care less. The only reason I watch it is just because you guys keep talking about it.
Yeah. And plus, I'm an old Star Wars fan. I'm more a Star Trek fan, but I love Star Wars too.
I made a piece years ago that all I need is the OST. I made that personal piece. I'm just like, I'm fine. You know what? I'm good because I didn't like getting invested in it. And I didn't like having hope. And that hope constantly being dashed. So I was like, you know what? There are 3 excellent movies that came out in the 70s and 80s, and that's all I need. And
the soundtrack is amazing. The soundtrack is amazing.
The best. And I'll always arrogantly point to them, be like, that's what started it all. So I don't want to hear any, though you don't like Star Wars, you don't know what this, shut up. There'd be nothing without those 3 movies. That's what Star Wars is. You guys want to enjoy it, but don't tell me what it is. I know what it is.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. This is so.
When the first prequel came out, I said, "Oh, so we're never going to get back to that." Well, at least we have the 3.
Good for you.
And you see all the light, glowing around. I watched the second and the third prequel, knowing full well I didn't expect it. That's probably why I liked the third one so much, because I had no expectations. I was completely fulfilled by the second one because, yep, that's pretty much just the same. It could have been excellent, wasn't, but it's still more Star Wars. And then I watched the third one. Hey, that was kind of pretty good. But at least we still have the 3.
Yeah. I was in denial.
In the background lights, God rays coming out of the 3.
I was straight up in denial. I was like, no, they're good. Like Yoda bouncing around like a pinball was cool, and like Clone Wars was fun. Like I just didn't. It was complete cognitive dissonance. It was like it's bad, but it's Star Wars, so it can't be bad. I didn't know. My brain didn't work like that. It wouldn't. It took me years to reconcile that it all sucked. And now it's kind of like annoying when people look at prequels. I'm like, look, I don't want to be a jerk here, but that is some of the worst dialogue in movie history in those movies.
Agreed, yeah. Revenge of the Sith is probably the 4th best Star Wars movie, and it was mediocre at best. And that was the finale of the prequel trilogy, whatever you want to call it.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Well, they kind of are.
Yeah, I know. That's called subtext. You don't speak the subtext out loud. Jesus Christ. What is this for 4-year-olds? I could not believe how juvenile that was and how ridiculous. Like, and they're on a lava planet. Ugh, like, just that whole sequence is stupid. They're bouncing down this lava river. What's going on? Why are they not incinerated? This is stupid. Oh, I left them there to do. So many things about it that I'm just like, this is not mature entertainment. And I don't want to be condescending, but I'm like, ugh.
You're not condescending. You are speaking the other truth. You're speaking exactly what George decided to reimagine in his mind as a tale for children. He was not lying when he said that, but he was also being not entirely truthful to himself. Because he had created family entertainment. He had created family entertainment that children could appreciate and adults could appreciate. And there are harsh things in those movies that children cannot appreciate so completely without the perspective of their parents or an adult to give them context. And he wanted to go full in on the childish parts while still making family entertainment. His own cognitive dissonance was at play.
He always said, like they say, like historically, the facts are that he said he wanted to make, like that Star Wars was all made for children and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't even believe that. I think that's like he's retconning his own process. Because it's like if you watch A New Hope, it's incredibly patient. Like 45 minutes before anything really happens. I mean, you have an opening battle and then they're just like wandering around the desert and you have like all this stuff going on at the homestead. Like not a lot of action is happening. Like, it's a patient movie. And then, the story kicks up and it's Star Wars, but it's like the idea that you made that for children, like like all the politics of like a inner family, like being like, I mean, I guess maybe it just seems a little mature for kids. But it's also very compelling for. I just don't understand why you made all these amazing choices and then you can never be able to do it again. Like, I don't get that. Like, he contradicted his own work in the prequels like so many times. I'm like, why wouldn't you just hire an intern and tell him to pour over the original 3 movies and just come up with a list of things you can't contradict?
You actually have experience. You have proof in this case, because we know he was dissatisfied with the originals, so he went and he changed them.
You're right.
And you know that dissatisfaction, that decide with his point of view, he was dissatisfied on how the Force was seen as a much more spiritual than a rational thing. So he wanted to change that. He wanted to change the interactions between certain characters because he likes the rationality of the storytelling instead of the emotionality. So he wanted to change that. And all of these things built into how I'm going to continue to tell the story forward. That's why I prefer the idea of George knows exactly what his universe is. He's the ultimate Star Wars idea guy. When we lose George, we will functionally lose real Star Wars. At least real new Star Wars.
Well, like you just said, George being true to himself, I feel like we lost it years ago. Like he doesn't. I don't even think he knows what Star Wars is anymore.
I think he's checked out a lot in the last few years.
Yeah, we've lost most of it. Now you look at a few people who are in the extended universe turned legends, who really care about it and can see we can now take this in so many different places. But you also have people who want to do the simple thing of using it as the vehicle, as Disney is, or they see that this opens up a whole world of possibilities. People like Tim Zahn, people like so many other writers and creatives who have created interesting, if not deep, stories in the universe and expanded it all beyond George's original thoughts on it.
Do you want to unload on Mando? Because I haven't watched it, but if you guys want to have it out about it, I'm fine. Like, I don't even know what the story is, but if you guys want to go there, I'm down.
Oh, that's cool. I like
talking
talking about the Expanse. Honestly, I think that a lot of people are talking about Mando, but nobody's talking about the Expanse. I think that's where your target audience is really
I agree.
going.
I just thought it'd be weird if we mentioned Star Wars and then didn't mention that. I don't know.
I think the show has been good. It could be a lot better, and there's certainly a lot of problems with it. The reason why the Expanse is so good is because it's unique. It's a new property. It's something based on a book, obviously.
New
What's that?
Chat has spoken.
Yeah, I think that.
Thank you.
I think that the obvious comparison is that it's science fiction, but I think that it's completely different shows. It's one is you shut your mind off and you just watch stormtroopers go down. This one here, man, from the beginning to the end, you're watching it carefully because you don't want to miss something. Like, what's in Avasavala's office? Like, what is she drinking? Oh, and wow, look who walks in the door. Oh, and who's that general and who's that admiral? And wait, what's going on the screen? And why is she on the moon? And so it makes you think, right? And the way the politics are being played is a very good facsimile of what's going on in our real world today. And that's part of why I like it so much. We get to see these characters we've kind of started to really, really get attached to go through the universe and screw things up. And that's what makes it so great.
Yeah. You know what? I wanted
they
to
accidentally save things. Like it's all by accident. It's like, the goddess of luck is sitting there rolling her dice and she's saying, man, they got double sixes again. How are they coming up with these rolls? So it's good to watch them. It's good to watch them fail upwards.
The goddess of the luck is asking, how are they coming up with these rolls?
Yeah.
It's like when you're playing D&D and like you roll for the villain and he keeps getting crits. You're like, I don't know. This is how the dice are coming up, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Damn, a 20 again?
Sorry. Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys about, because this is something I was kind of curious like about what people think, or if I'm like kind of biased as far as like the effects, like what you guys feel about the effects, because I noticed like when I was rewatching it last night, there's something so cool that they did when Avasarala is having a drink with that general or whatever on Luna, like the way the liquid in the glass settled or didn't, it kind of settled like slowly, like the gravity was low. I was like, that is such a cool attention to detail. I was just like, oh yeah, cool.
They've been doing that since the beginning, paying attention to things, keeping you inside the world, because you see that in several cases. You see fluids behaving as they should based on the situation that you're seeing. And I always just think that is someone that those are creative people creating this material that care, that you spent actual effects budget money to get that detail right, instead of just not caring and pouring liquid into a glass and it settles like it does on Earth because that's where we're shooting it.
Honestly, I probably would have just, if I was like the producer, I'd be like, yeah, what are we going to do? We're going to CGI the liquid? No, it's fine. No one's going to notice. Like, I probably would have like slipped through that detail. The fact that they went back and made that is just like, oh, you guys are awesome.
I loved it since the beginning, since the very first pilot episode had Julie Mao and her hair acting as it would under null gravity. And she just moving around with that until she finally tied it in order to keep it back. But that attention to detail, that interest. I mean, just the first time, I don't know, Lord Thoth, when you read this, but I did not read the books. But when I first understood that they had done something that I had barely even thought about from the terms of real space science, that if you actually induce if you actually induce a constant acceleration in a spaceship, you have acceleration, therefore you have an acceleration like gravity. And then everybody straps in, you spin the ship around halfway through the trip, and you induce reverse gravity with the ability to experience gravity in both directions. And I'm going like, you can have gravity almost all the way through a space flight.
Artificial gravity. That's the theory behind artificial gravity. Yeah, that's a scientific theory. Absolutely. Yep.
What I read about that afterwards is that apparently it's really difficult to sustain that 1G.
It is.
Like, it's like they said
the hardest part.
Yeah, like if you
Epstein drive.
Yeah, like if you could sustain just 1G, you could get to the moon in like, I don't know, 15 minutes or something like that. It was like like the distances become so tiny. Like you get to like Saturn in like 2 days. Like that's why the Epstein drive, like it just shrinks the solar system. It makes all that possible. And I think it's
theoretically possible. The problem is inertia, right? Obviously that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So acceleration causes stresses, it's mass, and anyway, without getting into the physics of it, let's get into
the physics. I mean, that's why we like the show, right?
In order to do that, you have to have kind of an anti-gravity to take what's
to do with my feelings.
So the good thing about this is obviously Shankar has really brought a lot of physics to the show, and that's awesome. Because that's what I like. I like the science of it as a scientist. So I appreciate all the little thought processes that went into every little thing. So whenever a ship accelerates, they talked about all of the physics part of what you could do to make a ship accelerate to that point without the effects of time dilation, gravity, mass, all of the because what happens to acceleration to a human body and why it goes splatter on the back of the ship if you accelerate too fast or decelerate too fast. So there's obviously the human body is very, very fragile. That requires certain either chemical compounds or scientific advancements to be able to prevent that from happening. So you don't go splatter in your ship when you try to hit the brakes. And and I think instead of it just being there, like in Star Trek or Star Wars,
Yeah.
they've thought about it. We've seen
Yeah.
that in previous episodes and like season 2 and 3, especially whereby, they're pumping themselves up with all those chemicals, and the ship is built a certain way so that it can prevent you from going splat. And that is just outstanding writing. And in order to maintain that, it requires a lot of thought and work that goes into the writing room. So
And
kudos.
The other thing though is like you can do that and it can be super boring. Like there's a book I read called Red Mars, and it's about as dry as science fiction gets, because it's hard sci-fi. And the idea is that this is like a potential future, how we'll colonize Mars. But like the guy, I guess he must be a physicist or something, because he goes out of his way to really make like these points and explain each thing. But it's like, it's so dry, it's boring. Like they use in the Expanse, they use the physics really well as storytelling technique. Like it isn't just, hey, by the way, just so you know, when gravities do it, like, no, it's a problem because they can only accelerate this speed for so long before they have a stroke, or they do have to flip and burn. And if they do that, like the drive signature gets like tracked. Like there's all this stuff that like they really understand that, okay, these are just the parameters of the universe. We don't need to show everyone that we did our homework. It's like, that's so great. Like that's what I feel about the brilliance of this show, especially like with Naren Shankar at the top, is the way that it's the confluence of understanding like the physics, like the world, like having great world building, but also just having incredible storytelling and filmmaking, like instincts, like where to push the line, what's the right choice. That's the artistic touch that's the magic, like linchpin of this whole thing. And it's a pleasure. It's a joy to experience.
Absolutely. And it's not going past the threshold too, that speed of light, that line, right?
Yeah.
As long as you accelerate close to the speed of light, right, your mass gets infinitely big and time slows down to a crawl. They've kind of eliminated that by keeping that within their universe. Obviously, time does slow down a bit as you accelerate to incredible speeds, but I think they've kind of pushed that aside a bit and just let the physics of the moment take hold, and that is believable. That's what is so great about this, is that whole thing is believable. It's believable science fiction.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's one of the things about this. They don't deal with you don't have to deal with the time dilation too much. If you did, the biggest issue you have to deal with is it's always going to be there. It's always going to be a factor. So if you take that if you at least take time into account, an actual space, an actual distance, which has become a problem for writers later, if you actually think about it, then you can accommodate, because you're constantly thinking about it will take this long. These people cannot instantly go from here to there. We have to understand that if you're going to move your characters through time and space, you've got to think about that and how that's going to affect your story. And that's why I think that they're actually winning at this, because they are considerate of it. They're considerate of all of those details.
Isn't it funny that a science fiction show with spaceships has more respect for time and space than Game of Thrones?
Those last couple of seasons especially made no sense, but yeah, you're right. It takes the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and I think that's really what they've brought into the show is, it takes time to get from here to there. That's what we saw last season. I think that's pretty much why it was so slow, because it takes time to go from point A to point B, even with the gates. And I think within your solar system, these are massive distances in our current thinking. So if we're going to be watching the show, we're going to be thinking our own current grasp of science. And I think that the solar system is so massively big that it does take time. You have to have some science advancements in order to kind of cut that.
So didn't Voyager like just leave the solar system like the other day? Like that, like, you know what I mean? Like that little
short
satellite.
time ago,
yeah. Like it came out in the 70s. Like, you know what I mean? So that's been a while.
It's back, and it's finally leaving solar. It's left solar space.
Yes.
It's left
now, obviously, it was
well beyond
decades older science too, right? We can go faster than that now, but yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the things about this show, and I'll probably have to run pretty soon, but I think that one of the things about the show that I really love is the little touches. You have stuff like our Star Trek Discovery actress there. The character's name was Sakai or something. It's that Watson, I think her name is, and she's from Manitoba, by the way. She's a good Canadian actress. She played in Star Trek Discovery, and she's the engineer, right? We get to meet the engineer, and she was working on the Rocinante.
Oh, the one
she's
with
the chief engineer with the tattoos and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the good thing about that is she's working on the ship and they're tinkering away and they're trying to make it seem like, yeah, it's taking a long time because the Rocinante has been kicked to crap. So it's taken a long time. They're putting armor on, they're upgrading all the weapon systems, they're making it into be the cool ship again, right?
Yeah.
And so she just leans over and she's sitting there and she's going, this is a good ship. And Holden goes, well, what are you talking about? She said, because it's got good tone. And he's like, okay, but that's something an engineer would be appreciative of, right? It's something whereby it's a line, just a throwaway line that nobody notices, but yet it really gives you a grasp, a look into that character. And that's a throwaway character. That's like a character we may never see again, but yet they have such great touches with the characters, with the theme, and with the background and what they're dealing with here, that the writers have it's true love. They love this show. They want it to be successful. And that really shows us that they love the show. So why can't we? And that's what I love about it. I the little touches.
Yeah. Me too. And it's like that. I didn't even really think about that line being great, the tone line, until you just pointed it out. But but think about that, because that means like every little rivet, every little bolt and nut, like the sound like passes through it correctly. I bet you engineers who work on space, on like aircraft or space, they probably say stuff like that. Like that's probably ripped from real life, because it's just like, no, you can't, unless you do that, you couldn't understand what that means. And like here, like
that reflects her character.
Yes.
It reflects her character. It shows something deep inside her soul. It shows personality that you may not get in the 3 lines she has in the show, but you get to see a little glimpse inside of her.
Yeah, and they used it for storytelling, like to kind of comfort Holden. Like they're geniuses. They really are genuinely geniuses at writing.
Because I think Lord Thoth would recognize this, being a Trekker as he is, that this kind of gives us that kind of gives us a little bit of love, because hello, Jennifer Sisko. This kind of gives us a little bit of love because there was this one line, and now I'm going to show more of my streamer's brain, because I don't remember the exact moment that I got it. I want to say it's like from the Next Generation episode that had Scotty in it, Relics, but I'm not sure. Where he refers to, I used to remember just how fast we're going by the vibration in the deck plates, and that's a little thing. It's after original series, but it shows the love that Scotty had for his first ship, his first love, the one that he cared about, the one that he refit through all those updating it to. He was so involved with it. The ship was practically his lover more than Jim Kirk's, the way Kirk spoke about it in the Intrepid episode.
I love that line. I love that. Thank you for that, because that reminds me of why I love Star Trek so much pre 2009. Because it's a throwaway line, like you said, but boy, it gives you a glimpse inside his soul. And I miss the classic characters, each and every one of them. Another good Canadian actor, Jimmy Doohan, and war veteran as well. So yeah, thank you for that.
There's a line like that in you ever see that movie Rush? With
I haven't seen it. I know what it is, but
excellent. It was I don't understand why it wasn't a bigger movie. One of those movies I just adore, me and my buddy, and we just quote it all the time. Like no one else has ever seen it. But it's about these 2 professional racers. I guess I think they're F1 or I don't know there, but it's like Niki Lauda and this other dude, James something. I can't remember his name. But they were like famous. And the guy Lauda, like he got in the car and he's like, God gave me a great ass. And like he could feel like just the engineering like flaws in the car just from like feeling it through his ass. Like he could just feel like the little, and he's like, yeah, like this is off and that's wrong, and like all these different things. And the girl, he's like, he's driving. She's like, I just got this car service. He's like, I don't know to tell you. This is what's going on. She's like, yeah, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. And then they cut, and they like the car breaks down like a half mile down the road or whatever. But there is, I like just bringing that all together. Like I like those little. It's like your soul or your body knows like the engineering, like it can just feel it. It can just sense it. It's kind of like, it's like you're in tune with this mechanical thing to another level.
It is a sense of the virtuoso. It is a sense of being able to sense something with your regular senses because you are so tuned to a thing, to pick out something that most people wouldn't, because most people aren't as sensitive to it. You aren't sensitive to harmonies and vibrations and things that are not meant to make harmonies and vibrations.
Yeah.
At least when they do, they're usually damped down or something like that, because that's the engineering that you need to have in that thing for it to operate normally without flying apart.
It's kind of like,
and that's the genius in writing. And And hey, looks like we have a fourth.
Yeah,
I think that's just something that I'm just impressed with. And I think when you start looking at that and seeing the good things that are being written in this show, that shows a love for the source material. I think a lot of that is part of it. The books are great, but this is just an improvement on it. They can sit back in the boardroom and in the writer's room and look at the material and go, how can we make it better? And that's why I think that the show, in my opinion, is better than the books in a lot of ways.
I agree. Unfortunately,
there are some differences and changes, but I like what they've done.
I think part of it is they just had a second chance to like polish up what they already wrote. You know, because there's this writing axiom that says writing is rewriting. So it's kind of like you just go back and rewrite what you wrote and kind of get like more refined and more sharp. And you kind of see like they get like a second chance at some of these things to kind of execute it in a more interesting way. Or just like refined. I don't want to say interesting, because I mean it's also
it is a refinement process, because when you start out, your original draft is going to have every issue that you had with it when you were first getting it out of your head and onto the page. And one of the first reasons is now you're refining it to make it even better, to think about all of those things that you didn't think about as you were writing it originally. And then you proof it for any issues, any flaws with the material. But then comes the eventual point where you have to stop yourself. The artist has to stop painting, carving the statue, writing the book. You've got to stop. You've got to say, now I'm just picking at nits. Now it is reasonably good. It is ready to let others partake of your creation.
Yeah. And what Ryan Butler's saying, I like the fact they change up the show from the books. It gives the book readers something fresh to watch. Completely. I mean, that's excellent. A great point.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I agree. 100%.
And I think it obviously really helps that the writers of the novelists are in the writer's room of the Expanse, you know, and I don't know that I've ever heard of that before. I don't know if that's a practice. Like I'm curious to see if that's like, if this is like a precedent, like if that's ever been done before, because this way the vision gets matched. And if they're the type of people who are, you know, malleable and you can work well with, which, I mean, I think judging by the outcome, we have to assume that they are, I mean, and then you can probably get the best possible product. And I wonder if this will maybe like set a new precedent, like if this is how it'll go, you know?
Because the only one that comes right off of my head is J.K. Rowling was close in the writer's room as they were adapting the Harry Potter novels to.
That's funny, considering in her head Hermione was black the whole time. So weird that they let them cast a white girl. Huh.
That's where she's going. That's where she's going with, you know that she's willing to change things.
Yeah.
She knows enough about the material that she didn't specifically say that she was black or white. But the thing is, when they cast,
by the way,
when they cast her, why didn't she say anything then?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I would have originally done it this. She's being revisionist, but that's another part of those things. When do you surrender your material to be part of other people's lives? When is your art done enough so that it becomes more than just the artist? your opinion, your perception of your own art. Eventually, it has to be born upon. If you're creating art, it must eventually be experienced by others. And once you let it be experienced by others, it is never just what you created.
No.
The whole creation of everybody that experiences it, every opinion that it produces, every emotion that it generates, folds out from what you originally created, and it might never get back to you. And you messed up in you might have said, that's not what I was trying to get out there. That's not the message.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not important. It's like, no, you did it and it's out there, and that's what it is. Like, I could sit here and talk to this camera with no one watching, but that's not the point. The point is to relate this to someone else. Now, I might look back on this in 5 years and be like, that's not quite exactly what I wanted to say. Let me tweak this. Let me adjust. No, fuck you. You had an audience and they showed up for what you put out there when you put it out there. You show goddamn respect to that audience, because you're not anything without it. There's no storytelling if there's no audience. What are you telling it to the fucking house plant? No, man. You told it to people. They liked it, and now you're acting like, oh, well, you didn't know what I put out there. You wasn't good. It's like, dude, just walk away. Walk away. And if you want to get better, take the Martin Scorsese path and just add it to the next film. Improve on the next story you tell. Don't get up your own. Oh, well, this one's got to go back and be perfect. To me, that just shows you have a lack of ideas then, or a lack of ambition to tell new stories. If you just can't, you just want, but let me. It's no. Move on as an artist. Evolve, grow, go to the next step. That's what you got to do.
Yep.
Stop ruining my childhood, you son of a bitch.
Now, I think it was a great idea for this show to drop 3 episodes. Outstanding. That's a great idea, because you're going to binge the 3 episodes. Then you're going to go, oh my God, I've got to wait a week and then a week and then a week. It's going to take so long. And I think this is a really good idea for a purely marketing perspective. I think if you're going to sell this show, you need to get people wanting to watch it. If you just drop it all at once and binge it, it's gone. And then you lose that marketing that you need to grow the audience. This show is better with a bigger audience, because that way we can get it out there. And that's why very few channels are doing Expanse reviews like you are, a Foul Ball. And I think that it's unbelievable to me.
I mean, this is the 5th video I've done since it came out. And like, it's a collective of something like, 300 views or something like that across all the different, even more. And I mean, it probably has a lot of overlap with viewers like seeing all the same stuff, but still, I mean, that's all free press that I want to talk about, because I love it. I'm happy to share this nerddom and fandom with everyone. It's my favorite thing, but I'm talking about it from a completely just fan point of view. I'm just giving them free hours and hours and hours of press, and I'm not the only one. I mean, Jake's doing it Gary's doing it. It was all over Friday Night Tights. I mean, they're if people like the thing, they're going to talk about it, and it's like, if you know how to work that, it's the best marketing you could possibly hope for. It's word of mouth marketing. That's what they say is always the best. Yeah,
the medium is the message. So what we're doing right now is YouTube is the medium. The message is Expanse. Let's get together and let's watch it, or let's do live streams, or let's talk about it. But if it's gone in like one day, and everybody watches it, say over a weekend, then what's going to happen is it's going to be out of the collective consciousness for a year. When that happens, people are like, "What's this Expanse? What are you talking about?" Like, wasn't that like 2 years ago? Yeah. So you got to spread it out over 10 weeks or however long it's going to take, and get that message out there. Get the free publicity. Get everybody talking about it, excited about it. Yeah. Oh my God, an asteroid just hit Earth. What are we going to do? We have to wait a whole week. Oh no. So that's the excitement.
And they did it perfectly, because giving you 3 episodes satiates your appetite, right? I don't feel like I need more. Like, I feel, I got a nice Expanse meal in my stomach. And now I can, now that the weekly episodes, it's intriguing, it's interesting. And since it is such a sophisticated and well-written show, it's going to give you a lot to think about, each week. Although I will say, this is my first time experiencing it week to week, and I hope I can emotionally handle it. I don't know. We'll see.
It's hard. It's hard to emotionally handle it.
tough
I'm like,
right now,
what?
aren't
What?
they?
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
end?
What's going on anymore?
Yeah, it's like a fix, right? You have that fix, and then you're like, gimme, 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 and that's what we've had so far. And I have to admit, as a consumer, I know Gary's going to hate that, but as a person who loves the show, I want it now. I want it all now. But
Yeah.
intellectually,
Selfishly.
I look at it and I go, damn, they got to spread this out because it's dying, and we need people out there to talk about it so it spreads. It's got to get out to the mainstream, and it's got to get out to a lot more people that can grow to love this just like we do.
It extends the conversation too, because I mean, if they put this all out like this week, let's say all 10 episodes or whatever came out this week, well, we could do a few streams about it, but then we'd move on eventually. How much can you talk? But putting it out each week makes increases interest in the conversation just for us. Like, we're like, what do you think is gonna happen next week? Like, what do you think about that? And it's like it's a thing. It's that water cooler conversation. It's what Game of Thrones was, even all the way down until its demise. It was, every week it was a big show and people were speculating. I mean, how many Reddit threads were there about like Bran the Builder and all these different like ideas and thoughts and what could it be and what does this mean and what do you think about this and wasn't that cool? Like, yeah, it's like people will do your marketing for you. Let's just give them a good product and they'll talk about it.
Absolutely, I agree.
It's simple, isn't it?
Absolutely. Hail to the chat. The chat is really lit tonight. I think this is probably the highest number of people I've ever had in a stream launching. And I really appreciate you all being here. Thanks. Got a couple regulars. Just another red shirt who just got a big promotion. Way to go. He's a wrench over at Nerdrotics channel.
Is he a blue shirt now? Is that what's...
That's true. And
not quite gold. He's not quite gold yet. He's not Eric K level.
Not quite. But Jennifer Cisco also is a wrench over at Nerdrotic. Congratulations to both of you guys. Way to go. Way to go. And we got the mighty Eric K as well. Good to see you all. This is great.
It's always great. These are great people in the chat tonight. That's some good chats there. Ryan Butler, Jennifer Cisco, Chris Hadfield, all those guys. Like, thank you very much for keeping us on our toes. I love having an active chat because that allows us to kind of tailor what we talk about too. A lot of cases.
Yeah, like it's so much easier. I mean, I have like little mini panic attacks when it's just me. You know what I mean? And especially if there's no chat. Like I'm just like, I don't have anything to say.
Oh, and Man of War too. We can't forget the Neighbor of the Beast there.
Cannot. The Beast. Can't forget. Yeah, it's great. It's great you guys are all here. It's super fun. And like that, I keep saying it, but that's like one of the most fun things about starting this channel was like meeting all these other Expanse super fans. I'm like, oh, you guys are out there too? Isn't it so great? I love it.
I gotta talk about it because I can't talk about it in the middle of the night and pick up any traction. It's worthless. You've got to talk about it during the day.
I know, but I'm like whenever I'm available, no one else is, and but that's I guess the curse of being on the West Coast. But we made it work today. We did.
It was outstanding. Yeah, I'm Eastern time, so yeah, it can be challenging, but I really appreciate the invite because I love this show. I love this world. I think that this is it's been a great ride, and I hope it keeps going. Yeah,
I think it's going to. I mean, if this is an indication for how the rest of the season is going to go, I mean, we are in for a treat because it wasn't even just good. It was amazing. Like. It was so satisfying. I was telling Draco when the first stream is that like I was watching it and like part of my YouTuber brain was kind of going about like, should I do a review after this? Should I stream it? And then I was just like, no, shush. This is your favorite show. Just sit and watch it and just let it happen to you. And I was so glad I made that decision because I was like giddy with joy just watching this show that I love so much and it being on such a high level. Like it almost, I know I'm excited about it, so it might be like coloring this emotion, but it almost feels like they're at their best right now.
I agree.
Like it feels like they took their lessons from last season, which was okay, but they took all the things that they did really well in season 1 through 3, and now I think they're just focusing it and making it just like a missile of awesome.
Missile of awesome. I like that. That's perfect. It is. And I think that it's because we haven't been disappointed so far. I mean, last year was kind of a little bit plodding at times, but I think it was still good. So they haven't done anything to like eviscerate us. They haven't stuck the knife into our backs yet.
No.
And I don't think they will. I
will
think
either.
that it's already a great show. It's diverse. It's got a great cast. It's got a great story. It's telling a good story, and that's what we all want out of our pop culture and genre.
F&A.
I don't know if they're hiding them, but at least they're not showing. I did not see any of those little extra blurbs in the Amazon sidebar like we saw during The Boys. So that's good.
Well, I mean, it's a different, it's the same company, but it's a different, it's a different show. It's a different production. I wonder if like when Amazon, what's that?
Thank goodness. I was just saying, thank goodness, so you could keep going.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Like you didn't see James S.A. Corey going on some on their political rants in their interviews, promoting the show, alienating their fan base. They talk Expanse when they go on their interviews, and it's great. Have you guys watched any of the what's it, Ty and That Guy podcast that they just started doing with Ty Frenick?
Yes.
You watch it? Was it good?
Yeah. It's not too bad. It's actually pretty good. I was quite impressed.
Right on.
Yeah.
That was brought up recently. You might have brought that up, and I still have not gotten back to it.
No, me neither. I mean to. I will. I just haven't yet.
Yeah, Wes is pretty good, eh? He's pretty funny. I like him. I like him better than Ty, but he's great because a lot of the interviews and stuff, and he just did one with Thomas Jane there because he directed the 3rd episode, so that was a lot of fun. Yeah. No, it's a great. Yeah, you got to watch it. It's pretty good because it's like an after show. And so it was an opportunity to kind of let them have their hair down and talk about stuff. And yeah, it's good. Yeah, check it out.
That's cool. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that Wes would probably be a little better at just entertaining. Being he's a professional. That's what he does. He's an entertainer.
You can see a lot of Amos in him too, though, eh? Like you can see that's who the actor is versus the character, and but you see a lot of him in him, and it's pretty good. But he's obviously a little bit more humorous.
Yeah, he seems like it. Wes is a great social media follow too. He posted I guess a year or two ago, he got his jiu-jitsu black belt. I was like, whoa, man, that's not an easy accomplishment. They don't just hand those out.
Oh, it makes the choreography a lot easier too if somebody is trained and they know what they're doing.
He's so believable in his fight sequences. I mean, when he was pounding that one belter's head into the steel, the look in his eyes that it was really scary because he was just a demon. He just lost control of himself. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I hate waiting.
Really.
I hate waiting. That was a great scene.
It was awesome. There were so many good lines in this show. The one line that really blew me away, and someone pointed out into the chat, and I almost missed it, was when the guy Bull is talking to Fred Johnson, and he says, "You know what your problem is? You think just because someone's an underdog, that makes him the good guy." And I was like, that line stopped me in my tracks. I was like, wow, what a wise and insightful comment that could have just been put anywhere and would have been interesting, but the way they held on to it and just dropped it in right there for Fred Johnson to digest, and it was important storyline. But just as a person, I mean, I find that to be utterly it's just such an insightful line.
It is perfect. Yeah, it's perfect in character too, which makes it even better.
Yeah,
part of that excellent writing, the idea that he has worked with Holden enough, he knows and he understands, and the writers chose, well, you know what? He does know enough about him. He should drop this line. He should say this about him. Make him think. And that's excellent.
Yeah.
And it gives you an eye into his soul. He's relatively minor character really up till this point, and yet that line makes you realize, okay, these are two soldiers who've served together forever. And they know each other. So he knows exactly how he thinks. And he's saying, dude, Like, come on.
I love that. Like, and it's a like it's like you said, like it moves the story, but it's also just a great line, like just for humanity, just for like an individual to reflect on. Like that's something you can like take away from life, you know, like that's wisdom about the nature of humanity. Like, yeah, just because someone's an underdog doesn't mean they're good. It just means they're an underdog. And it's like, damn, that is insightful. Like that's something you like to think about as a person.
Did you see Jennifer's line there in the chat?
No, what was it? The Fred line to Holden?
For less.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, that's how you go through life, pushing buttons. There's a lot of button pushing going on.
He said that. That's really how you go through life. Like he just is just shocked. Like he was talking to like a puppy who just shit on the rug again. Like,
There was a button. I pushed it. Yeah, that's right. Exactly, Ryan. That's right. Yeah. There was a button. I pushed it. Come on.
It really is how you go through life, isn't it? It's so great. I love the Holden and Fred Johnson dynamic. You know, I like the kind of wizened old soldier trying to kind of guide the, you know, headstrong young kid. I love that dynamic.
Yeah, I love this crew. It's a great show.
It's fucking phenomenal, and I couldn't be happier with these 3 episodes. Could not be happier. Do you want to wrap it up there, guys?
Yeah, sure.
Approaching 2 hours. I got to eat some dinner. I'm pretty starving.
Time to feed the beast.
Time to feed the beast.
10-4.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hail to the chat. What an outstanding turnout today was. It's really great that you guys were here. This was fun. This was really fun. And thank you to my
like and leave some comments if you feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah, please do that. Please do that. Like, subscribe, the whole 9 if you haven't. And thank you to my guests, Lord Thoth, Draco. Lord Thoth and Draco are did I put your stuff in the chat? They're building up to their channels. They're coming. They're on the way. And I think we're going to see some interesting content from these guys. So make sure you subscribe to both their channels and Jake D as well. Subscribe to Jake D. I want to thank him for
Jake D.
So
if not on my main channel, then definitely on my linked thoughts channel. I keep thinking I want to put something there, but my main channel is my personal, and my linked channel is where I showed my dissatisfaction by talking about Picard for a little while after hearing how my sister kind of liked it, and I didn't get that. But but yes, Expanse could deserve some like. Expanse could deserve some love, and I keep thinking maybe I would. And
well, it's an outstanding show, and I'm sure these guys are going to put out some videos, but I'm definitely going to continue putting out Expanse videos, and I'll certainly have these 2 wonderful and insightful, intelligent gentlemen back, and we'll talk about it, and hopefully you guys will join us all again watching covering the Expanse.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Very welcome. Very glad to have you guys, and thank you to the chat. Thanks for everyone for watching. Have a great night. Beltalota.